Okay, so for this day, I am inviting you to come to this special lecture where we shall be discussing about Project Rationale and the force account operation. Because the way it is, remember, this is the public project and it requires force account operation in order to realize affordable cost to the taxpayers and also with the best quality. So we should not compromise at any point. And therefore, you should understand that when you are developing this type of project, the project is not of your father, the project is not of your mother, and everybody is focusing at this project because people depend on it and they want to know what will be the outcome of this project. And therefore, because this one is not belonging to your family, it is the project that belongs to the public. And therefore, you must show high level of interest for the public, and so that they can chip in some points, they can chip in some finance, they can chip in some interest. It is unlike when you are developing your own project at home, you have a separate interest. That one can be for yourself, but here you must justify the project. And therefore, with this justification, you must develop the project rationale. And this rationale should be presented to the key stakeholders for endorsements, including management, the tender board, and other professions and departments inclusive. And therefore, you find it is important. For today, we shall be focusing on how we can develop the project rationale and the force account. At the end of the day, you shall be able to develop one for yourself. And remember, don't forget that assignment I've given you. You should also play part of it in developing your own project and a force account. And our focus is the public sector projects. So based on that one, what we will say, we should be knowing that Project Rationale, as the way it is a statement of facts explaining the background and justification of the project. So in here, you must justify the project. You must justify, you must produce the statement that is convincing, that there must be enough reasons to justify the use of force account. And the rationale identify the need for the products or process and offer viable solution. What are the issues that are coming up for you to start using force account? You must develop that rationale. The rationale is one of the first documents to be written by the project manager and sets the background for the force account project. And there's no excuse for any project manager, despite of saying you shall be having your drawings and everything, but again, you must develop the project rationale. And this document is the one that will get the blessing from the management and the tender board and others key stakeholders. Project rationale explains why the project must go ahead, what happened, what makes you to decide and say this should be a project. What would happen if the project was not approved by further consideration? These are the issues that you find you as a project manager, you must develop the concept. The rationale is the first document that will be studied by project board members and therefore can act as a launching pad for making the first impression with those who are going to be in charge in the project. Therefore, it is important. Rationale is a narrative description of justifications for the undertaking of the project in response to business drivers. You see, this is the focus. What are the justifications you are taking into this project? What are the key issues, preliminary justifications, so that you can account for the board, you can be accountable to the management, you can be accountable to the department, you can be accountable to all the users. You see, and this is very important for you to know. The project rationale should be approached as a strategic plan within the organization context. So you go through the strategic plan and make sure you don't get out of strategic plans. You page yourself into that strategic plan. It needs to be addressing the following key issues. Where are you now? You see, where do you want to be? How do you get there? What are the key issues? You see, and therefore we say the project rationale must be evidence-based. A clear and conscious documents underpinning the importance of the project and state justifiable reasons for its approval. Why do you require approval from the management? Why do you require approval from the tender board? Why do you require? Why should the government implement it? Do you have any connection from the government policies? You see, is it part of the strategic plan of your organization, or is not part of the organization? You see, so outline and identify the problem within the organization context. Make a clear analysis. You should be able to analyze the problems that the organization is facing in line with the need for you to develop the rationale, to develop the thinking that you can develop these projects, that the project should be implemented. Make problem analysis. What are the key issues within your organization? What are the key issues? You see, what are the organization, what the organization is facing? You see, this is very important. You can develop, you can make analysis based on the cause-effect analysis. But when you have those cause-effect analysis, this is when you are trying to peel down the problem within the organization. Remember, for any project manager, if you're a project manager, you should understand that financing is not a problem, but strategy, to identify the strategy and to influence the key peoples that you can implement the project regardless of not having resources, but we can run on the way. So you need to convince the management, and the management should appreciate the documents that has been prepared. It's very professional. It has all the attachments necessary for its implementation. So analyze the main determinants. It might be the market requirements, and analyze issues like resource requirements, risks associated with the projects, then benefits. What are the key issues related to the number of people who are going to benefit in the projects? You need also to identify that one. And also come up with some points for possible solutions and recommendations. And, you know, with the different options when you're making this one. Now, you must develop a clear statement that will support the issues that you are about to influence the management. So the project rationale is the reason statement explaining the problem, identifying the need, and offering justifiable solution. It's very important you justify those one. So a project rationale is arguments in favor of implementing the proposed projects by your organization. So why should the organization implement the project? Why is it possible to stay without that project in mind? But remember, you have as I said in the beginning, nobody will help to change your organization. Nobody will help to change your company. Nobody will help to change your country. Nobody will help to change your public sector for the good. It is yourself. It is yourself to identify the striking project. And this striking project, you have role and responsibility to develop the rationale so that at the end of the day, you can implement and identify the way out to address the problem. And that is the way and that thinking. So with us, we are being guided with the PPRA guideline and a force account. And therefore, first of all, we should know and a force account, we are facing with two types of projects. The two types of projects, these are: one, you can do project maintenance of works. You can do the maintenance of project. You can do construction of new facility project. These are project under force account, even though it is still growing approach for people to appreciate in terms of addressing the public goods. As we have said, in line with the infrastructure development, there are so many areas that we need to explore as Africa and identify our own way of addressing the local problems. And the only way to address these local problems is to use the force account approach, because when you use a force account, you find the cost of implementing the project is going to be low as compared to those ones who use contractors. You know, when you use contractor, the project cost becomes very high. Because it is very high, you find the burden goes into the final taxpayers, who will pay in the form of taxes. So with us, our focus is affordable cost. Because at the end of the day, if you use force account, you don't need to borrow money from banks. You will only borrow when you find it can justify the returns of that investment. And therefore, there are two projects under force account approaches, as I've said. The one is a project maintenance of works, and another one is construction for new facility project. Now, maintenance of work, it can be maintenance of classes, maintenance of halls, maintenance of dispensary, maintenance of everything. You might be having some buildings that looks dilapidated buildings. They're not good, they're not clean. You need to paint, you need to merge some part for maintenance. You organize that one, you make justification. What was the last time you did your maintenance of work? You can do the maintenance of work. And now, part two is for you to look at construction of new facility of project. Construction of new facility. It might be new project. You can construction of buildings, construction of classes, construction of dispensary, construction of classes, construction of everything that you find it is new. Now, when you construct, then you can use the force account approach, but you must be smart. You must be organized, that now you are going into the move of using force account approach. And this is very important, because at the end of the day, you'll find the cost of running a project and a force account, it will be very low as compared to those costs that you use contractors. Because at a force account, you are not forced to so many contracts that will end up piling yourself and confusing the project manager. Because right here, if you implement on a force account, you implement based on the ability. We can implement in phases our project. We are not worried. So long as we have the resources, we can find ourselves implementing it. You see, you can do it in phases, foundation phase, or substructure phase. You can finish substructure and then find yourself waiting until you get another money. Then you can go ahead with maybe setting up columns and so on, and preparing for slabs and so on. So all this will depend on the availability of funding and the strategy. But under contractors, so long as you have entered into contract, my friends, if you don't have money to implement at that particular time, remember, the contractor has also borrowed the money from financial institution. So the money, the cost of borrowing for him will keep on creeping, and that cost must be added to you at the end of the day. If a project will cost about 2 billion, at the end of the day, you may find yourself paying about 5 billions or beyond 5 billions. So that's why we prefer the use of force account when it comes to implementing our project. So it might be the maintenance of work, or it might be about construction of new facility of projects as it has been stipulated under PPRA. So what are the conditions for the use of force account? You should understand there are conditions. The works are small, scattered, and in a remote location for which qualified construction firms are unlikely to tender at a reasonable price. And then you can use a force account approach. Work is required to be carried out without disrupting ongoing operation. Then you find you have to use force account. There is an emergency that needs immediate attention. Maybe you are thinking that by October we are going to start a new program, so we need to finish early. So when you think about procurement process, it will take too long. So which approach you may use? Use a force account. Use a force account to meet the deadline. So that's why we find there is an emergency. There might be a crisis somewhere. There might be a crisis somewhere. So if there is a crisis, then you could use a force account to address that one. And this is emergency that needs immediate attention. Risks of unavoidable work interruption are better borne by procurement entity or the public authority than by a contractor. So based on the risk, the way you view, you justify, you develop rationale within these conditions. The procurement entity has qualified personnel recognized by relevant professional body to carry out and supervise the required work. And these are some of the things. If you find you have the people in place who can implement and manage the project, then these are conditions that you can use force account. The maintenance of construction is part of routine activity of the procurement entity. It might be. So the submission for the request for approval must be accompanied with a sufficient justification for use of force account. And this is the project rationale. And that's why we say you have to use the project rationale to develop your documents. Now, let me tell you one thing. When developing your rationale, you shall have your normal introduction. You must make sure you develop a very good introduction. The introduction must be analyzing the situation that you are under proposed strategy. So you introduce the project, you analyze the project, you describe the project in brief, and then you go to the project rationale where you will need to justify under that analysis in relation to planning, just like the way we have said in the other classes that it is important. You describe the project rationale, you analyze the problem in details, you peel it out, you make analysis for the cause, effects, and relations, and that will give you justifications that you need to go for. For the project. And then once those ones are done, then you can find yourself developing some more analysis that will include yourself coming up and develop the goal, the project goals. And the project goal must be very smart. Project goal must be very smart, and it must be smart by the way you write. Now, and also, once the project goal has been identified, you go to project objective. The project objective must also be smart, just like the way we have said in other classes. It must be smart, the project objective. Once the project objective has been identified, then you develop project strategies. Once the project strategies has been analyzed, then you develop project activities. Once the project activities has been analyzed, it is time for you to develop cost analysis based on the activities, because the costs that you shall be doing must be based on the activities. What are the types of activities that you think you will need to be accounted for? So when you know that these are the activities that you'll be doing, so you start costing one activities after the other. And these activities, remember, the activities will be based on the work breakdown structure. The activities, once again, I say, activities must be based on the work breakdown structure. So if you know the work breakdown structure, you will analyze them properly of what is going to be done. systematically. You arrange them in a sequencing order. You see, if you know these are the activities that are going to be done, then you have to cost all those activities that are going to be done. Now, once that one is done, then it is possible you have cost analysis. Now, if you have cost analysis, you will have also revenue analysis. So you analyze what will be the benefits for the project, what will be the benefits for the project. And also, once this one is done, you can develop your budget. You can develop your budget. And if you can develop your budget based on the cost and the revenue that you have analyzed above, just like the way I have provided these hints in our previous classes, that we said in our previous class that the way we organized our budget, you must identify the cost properly. And these costs are based on the activities. So I also refer to that lecture of cost estimation that is going to be very useful at this portion of you developing the cost and revenue estimation. So you will have the budget. At the end of the day, you will have the cash flow, projected cash flow based on the organization, and also you will have your income statement, if any, and also you shall have your balance sheet to try to negotiate in favor for you to implement the project. This will be part of the financial projections that you will include in the rationale. And okay, now I think you are getting closer to what we are saying. This session is very important because this is the one that will lead you to develop the full project rationale. Now, once those ones are done, you will go to the appraisal issues. Appraisal issues, you must develop the appraisal issues. Also, I keep on saying, refer our appraisal issues session where we discussed about. You will have the financial appraisal, social appraisal, economic appraisal. You will have the gender appraisal, environmental appraisal, institutional appraisal, and also the question of sustainability. You should not forget all these and the justifications of the documents. And also we shall have another section where we shall be talking about project implementation. And a project implementation and organization. What are we going to focus under this one? And the project implementation and organization, we are going to organize we are going to focus the justifications on how the project is going to be organized. Who will manage the duties and responsibilities of each individuals who are going to be involved in the project. You must analyze them. Now, the only way to analyze them, you must develop the work breakdown structure. Refer the other lecture for the work breakdown structure that will give you the hints on how you can justify this one. So the implementation of project implementation, you will have the duties and responsibilities of each individuals and working in the project, and also you shall have the organization structure. You will define, you make analysis, the reason for that organization structure that you think you shall be working, the chain of commands and the reporting to that one. How are you going to work out and realize the good fruits? At the end of the day, you have good performance. Now, those are the issues that we find are very important when you are running a project. Another aspect that we find it is also important for us to look at is for you to check yourself on the work plan. So you must be having the work plan. The work plan must be based on the work breakdown structure. So you organize your works into the work package, and then you form the work plan. You can develop this work plan based on the Excel. You use Excel to develop that one, or you can use the MS Project to develop this one. So if you use one of those, you'll find yourself having those activities, and with the dates, responsible people will be there, and in terms of timeline, you see, it must be there. So you may find yourself drawing up the Gantt chart, if any, at the end of the day. So you must attach the Gantt chart at the end of the day. Once those ones are done, you will also talk about risk analysis, and you analyze all risk associated within the project, and the way you will be able to mitigate those risks. You must develop well in this analysis. Another point that we are talking about right here, it will be about monitoring and evaluation. You must analyze how this project is going to be monitored, and who will monitor. What are the responsibilities of those individuals who will be working in the project? What about the team for monitoring and evaluation? And also you need to include people like the engineers who will be the technical people who will be working in the projects. Analyze them, how they will monitor, and the type of documents needed for monitoring. It's also important for you to include in there. And also we say it is important, you should indicate when are you going to do the evaluation of the project, and who will do the evaluation. You remember, you will use the normal procedure for evaluation. So that will be part of you to include in your rationale of the project. And that will be the best approach for you to say this project can be implemented by the management. Now, apart from saying you have those ones, you also need to include some other aspects that will include, but not limited to. For example, number one, you need to have attachment. Once again, you need to have attachment. And these attachment include the following. One, you must have architectural design. Two, you must have structural design. Three, you must have services design. Four, you must have what? You must have test, soil test. Yes, soil test. You must have soil test, because the soil test is very important in this phenomena. It's very important because you are about to construct something. So is the soil being tested? You must have that one. And also you must have clear documentation, your budget, your cash flow, and so on. You see, your income statement, projected ones, and so on, and so on. You see, okay, apart from that, you shall have services drawings. Services drawings, this is for water drawings, and you shall have another services is for electricity. So you need to attach. These will be part of the attachment. These will be part of their attachments. There are so many other documents at the end of the day, not limited to these ones that we have already mentioned here. You shall have other documents for the attachment. You shall have other documents for the attachment. Now, we say here that these are very important. These documents, once it has been prepared, it is the responsibility of the project manager to take these documents with those attachments. You see, you present to the management, you submit to the management to get management endorsement. Once it has obtained a management endorsement, now you can take the same documents to the tender board to get approval by the tender board. Remember, the tender board is also independent. Now, once it has been approved by the tender board, you also need to get some blessing from different, well, it will depend with the levels in your organization. Some individuals, they have the board, so it is important for you to also to present to the board of director to get the same blessing that we have. It has been approved by the tender board. Now we also need your blessing. So it is important you should know about that role. So tender body, they're independent. They can accept, they can reject, depending on the way they view about the project. But again, if you have justified it properly, and if you have justified it properly about that project, there's no way tender body can reject that project, because it is a problem that we are facing in the organization. So there's no way. Everything that we are implementing, it must be justified. And that justification, that spirit, it is where we have to implement that project. And there's no way we can stop that project. The first account, everything is possible. It is time for you. Once you have the blessing from the management, from the board, from the board, now it is time for you to implement. You need to know that you need to coordinate the project. You need to work with other government agencies. You need to work with other public sectors. You need to work with the people. You need to work with the communities around it. You need to mobilize the resources, and you need to get serious. You need to stay focused. I think that is the only way. So what do we say? That is the rationale. The submission for request for approval must accompany sufficient justifications for use of force account. And this is the project rationale. This is the project rationale. Yes, so you will prepare this by yourself. You will prepare this. You know, I have been saying we can attain our Africa. Nobody will come and help and build Africa. It is ourselves. Africa will be constructed by ourselves. Nobody from any government will come and help you construct Africa. Public sector must wake up and use force account approach. We should not overcost our projects. Government agency, they should stay coordinated, work together as a team. Some agencies, they have manpower. You can get manpower. You can get technical people from other government agency to help the same. You can get vehicle from other government agency to implement your project. Because all of us, we are trying to save the public sector. If we do that, we can construct bigger buildings than ever. Bigger buildings by ourselves. We can construct new facilities of any type by ourselves. Nobody will help your Africa. Africa will be developed by you. Africa will be developed by you, public servant who is working under public sector. And you remember, you must work under public interest. Now, with regards to those, there are challenges that the force account project is facing. Number one, those people who are working in the implementing team, they are facing high risk. Anything that happened within the project, they are responsible. If there is bad work, it is their responsibility. If it is good work, they are being rewarded for the good work. So implementing team face high risk. All liability fall under. They should be. It is under the implementing team. There is resistance and less support from engineers and the other people from the procurement team. They don't understand. The focus here, less cost, the best quality, they will not understand. So you need to work as a team. You need to work as a team. We need lower cost to implement public sector, lower cost. And again, the best quality. We need the best quality, lower cost. And this is the target. So that we should avoid increasing the burden to the taxpayers. And it makes sense. It makes sense for us. it makes sense when we have affordable costs, but the best quality. And also, there is less awareness and understanding of force account applications. And also, there are so many internal politics within force account. So when you implement, these are the challenges that you'll find they are there. But if you're a project manager, you're developing the project in the public interest, and you can develop the way you want by looking at those challenges. Now, how do you finance the project? We can, depending on the government agency you are coming from. But we have already said in our previous session, from sources of revenue. But the key strategy that you can use, you can have the forward contract. The forward contract. Now, when you use the forward contract strategy to implement this project, you can find yourself procuring material. You can procure material and pay the supplier maybe after 3 or 6 months. This should be the strategy. Now, those should be the strategy, but you need to form some kind of agreements so that you can find yourself implementing it. There are some supplier, they are ready to supply you goods. They are ready to supply you material, and you pay them after 6 months. This is what we call it forward contract. You see, forward contract. After 6 months, you start paying them. So you can implement. By the time when you start collecting your revenue, you pay them. This is kind of agreements that you may get into. Apart from saying that you have other sources, you say these are strategy. These are strategy. Remember. You can use your fees. You can use your taxes. You can use your debts. You can use anything that you want. You can use anything as part of source of revenue to finance that one. You can use municipal bonds. You can use the treasury bills, you see, and so on. These are the strategies that you can find yourself using if you want to implement public sector project and a force account, especially in times when we find ourselves, we have some financial crisis. Now, with this one, I also refer, I suggest you go back and refer other lectures for sources of revenue to finance our project. Thank you very much for listening this lecture, and I wish you the best. Prepare yourself for another lecture. Thank you.